What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the O Show podcast. This is episode 491 of the show. We are presented by Mayweather Boxing and Fitness in Scottsdale, Arizona. Mayweather Boxing and Fitness is a highly intense workout developed by the champ himself, Floyd Money Mayweather. We are here on episode 491 with Emmanuel. We are about, like an 8-hour time difference right now?
Yes, sir.
So tell the people where you're from and what you're all about, man, because I can't wait to pick your brain about what you've been doing and what your main mission and vision in life is.
So I am from Scottsdale, Arizona, and I'm messing with you. I'm from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And so God told me to come out here to Zagreb, Croatia. And it was, what's the best way to put it? It took some time to get over my worries and fears, but once I got over that, and since I've been here, it has been this life-altering journey.
Wow. So what was it that clicked for you? Was it like a God-sent thing, like a calling, so to speak, or did you have a plan to go out there?
It was a God-sent calling.
Wow.
I mean, I've been to Croatia before, but to get up and move from Baton Rouge, Louisiana to come here, I was like, okay, this is this is interesting.
What
And
do you think was like the biggest culture shock for you?
well, I didn't really experience too much culture shock. And I don't know if that's because the people here are normally very warm and friendly.
Yeah.
So as far as food goes, I mean, there's still American style food, or excuse me, food that I'm used to in the States. And so nothing that totally like shook me that I can think of at the moment.
Oh, wow. So like going from down south where, Louisiana barbecue, man, best in the game, and going all the way out there. I mean, that would definitely be a culture shock for me. So I give you a ton of credit for doing that. And what's it been like since you've been out there? Like what would you say has been your calling since you've been out there?
So I have been on an adventure to discover many things. And essentially, God turned on the fire hose and just filled me with all sorts of information. And it's things that people can actually put into practice in order to play this game called life. And so fundamentals and tools to help people get to and keep this mindset. I'm going to have joy during the difficult times in life.
So kind of talk to me about that a little bit. So like you growing up in Louisiana, what were did you play sports? Were you what did you do, and what kind of developed this mindset for you?
So in regards to playing sports for any school or anything like that, I did not. But so this mindset came from I laugh, but Gladys Aylward and Amy Carmichael. I'm not sure if you've heard of them.
Wow.
But they've since passed away. Um, Gladys Aylward was a missionary to China, and Amy Carmichael was a missionary to India. If you go back and look at their life story, or if anyone who's listening goes and looks at their life story on video documentaries on YouTube, you'll see, talk about culture shock. So leaving the UK and going to India at that time was Amy Carmichael went in the 1800s, early 1900s. She was there, and then Gladys Aylward was in China in the early 1900s, and no, I mean, this is a time, no cell phones, no email. You're communicating with your family by writing out the good old letter. And so just especially like Gladys Aylward's journey, like to get there, she ended up taking a train from the UK, and it was as it was going through Russia, there was a conflict. I can't remember who Russia was in conflict with, but at one point she had to get off the train, and it wasn't at a stop. It was just like yeah, the train's not going any further. There's fighting ahead, and she got off the train and trekked back to the last stop, and she was walking in the snow and in the cold, and just her tenacity, her persistence through life. And also part of her story, which really just brings me absolute courage and tells me that this woman had absolute peace and joy of mind. So the town that she was doing a large amount of her work in, she had been there for some years, and at one point there was trouble in the men's prison. One of the prisoners had gotten his hand on an axe, and he had killed like one or two prisoners, and the guards didn't know how to handle the situation. They called her to go to the male's prison to sort it out. She's like 5 foot tall. And so she goes into the prison, and she walks up to the guy and tells him, "Give that to me, the axe." And he hands it over to her. And so it's like, man, you have to have like a mind that is just at peace without, I mean, because imagine being in such a situation. It's like, I'm in China, like the thoughts that would be going through somebody's head.
Oh, yeah.
I'm in China. Anything can happen to me. They could cover it up. No one would ever find out what happened. And this could be the end of it for me. But the bravery, the courage that existed with this woman, and I would say both of them, because Miss Amy Carmichael had she had some conflicts in India with the local people, because they would take her to court because she was helping out abandoned children. And I guess some of the parents or families would want to take her to court, or they made all sorts of accusations against her. And so both of them are rock stars.
Oh, I absolutely agree with you. Zero F's given in both of those, in that one story that you told there. Like that is incredible. I feel like everybody has that, like one or two, possibly even three people in their lives who they look at and be like, that person inspires the hell out of me.
And so this is the thing. Everybody can get there. There was nothing particularly special about those two, besides answering to the calling of God. And so Jesus Christ gave them that strength of will to stand strong and to have this tenacity to just keep moving forward. And so it's possible. And so this is part of my work, is to help people, well, first understand that mindset, and then understand and know that it is possible to have in this life. And it's important to have, because it's in the difficult times when people are at greatest risk of spiraling into stagnation and getting overwhelmed with hopelessness, or or stewing in thoughts of anger and bitterness. And so it's important to have that joy and peace of mind in those times.
I mean, when you're alone with your thoughts for more than a few hours, things can get pretty hectic if you're anybody, right? But I'm curious, when you go about some of these teachings and trying to help other people kind of, live the same mindset, at least a like-minded mindset that you have, how much do you implement your background in faith in that? Because I think that's probably one of the more important things that someone could carry, whether you have faith alone or you actually, were saved by Jesus, right? Because like it could go both ways. How early on did you how early on was your faith a factor in your life?
So I was raised in a Christian home,
Mm-hmm.
and so it was very early on in my life. And there was a period where I did stray away from the faith.
Right.
But as life went on and as I learned more and more things, I came to realize the wisdom in, as we say, the good book. And so after having my, I guess I'll call it literally, come to Jesus moment, I started to dig and investigate more and come to realize like there is a peace, there is a great joy that exists in helping other people out and helping other people out of their difficult situations. And so, as I have been learning more and more things to help people out of the difficult times or to help them survive the difficult times, this joy within me has just been growing and growing and growing more to the point where sometimes I wake up and I'm just smiling and I'm like, let's go. Or most of the times when I'm walking down the street, I this just big beaming smile on my face. It's like the smile is coming from inside of me, and I can't suppress it even if I wanted to at times. And there are things that I notice that will kind of take that away from me. And so I become mindful and sensitive to find out, okay, all right, I noticed this is affecting this joy. And so I document these things, and these are things that I will continue to put out and spread this information that I'll continue to put out. And go ahead.
I was just gonna ask, like, do you have like an implement or kind of a plan for people that you'd want to help out too? Like, because you say you document everything, do you encourage others to document as well?
I do. I do encourage people to write out things. For example, there is something, it's a term that I use called a character resume. So essentially, the purpose of that is to see how you respond when you go into a difficult situation. So, and part of the reason for that is one, so you can evaluate and improve moving forward, and also to see what things came out of you that shined. Because one thing that I've discovered time and time and time again, maybe I'll try and make a joke of this. It's almost like when I get put into a pressurized situation where I start to feel uncomfortable on the inside, whether that be a bit of, I don't know which way to go, or someone asks me a tough question. whenever I get put into that situation, gold coins pop out of me. In a sense, it's like these good things come out and or interesting ideas that help me move forward. And so I am an absolute fan of stepping outside of the comfort zone again and again and again and again. There are times where I flinch and I'm like, oh, I don't know. I'm like, oh, I don't know. But because so much growth, so much development, so much wisdom has come out of um, being pushed outside of the comfort zone, being stepping outside of the comfort zone, being put into uncomfortable situations, that I strongly encourage people to document and keep a list of strengths and weaknesses as well. And in a sense, you can literally write out who you are, and you start to find like, okay, I didn't realize that. For example, I started writing poetry. This was necessary. And as I started writing poetry, I'm like, oh, this is interesting. I didn't realize that I could write decent poems, and poems that people were like, oh, well, that was really good. Like, I can't, like, and I'm like, and this came out of me due to stepping outside of my comfort zone. And so people have all sorts of abilities that they don't even know exist. And part of my work is to help people get things out of the way so that we can get down to those nuggets, to those golden things that hide within each person. And so this is one of the things that gives me hope and keeps me excited, although the world might be in turmoil, but I'm still hopeful. It's like, look, I know you, him, her, you guys have nuggets inside of you, and we can definitely get there. It's just a matter of getting some things out of the way.
That's a great way to put it too, like those golden nuggets, because I feel like almost everybody has something that they might not even see that's like either bothering them or it's just tough to unlock in their brain. And then once you finally get it out, you're like, oh my God, like it's kind of like a breakthrough moment and you can get past it. Like you were saying, like get past that moment so that you can live every day of your life the happiest that you can. And I'm 100% on the same page with you when it comes to like facing your fears, getting out of your comfort zone. Some people like it. Some people want to achieve more and strive for greatness. What are some of the more uncomfortable things that you've put yourself through that you said that just to like get out of your comfort zone? Like me personally, I've been doing stand-up comedy. I am horrific, right? But I do it because you go up there, you tell some jokes, nobody laughs. There's like 30 to 40 people. Then you get off the stage and you're like, well, but at least I had the courage to go try that and fail miserably. Because now you're like, what's the worst that could happen? Just that. It happened to me already. It can't get any worse than
that. So for me, and that's pretty funny to think like, hey, you know what? Got up on stage, jokes didn't land, or maybe the audience was just hard of hearing. That's another perspective.
I like that perspective.
But one of my one of my favorites is singing in public. And so this started out in Germany because I went to Germany in the month of August.
Okay.
And as I recall, the first time was where I had to sing at a very high volume was in Marienplatz in Munich, Germany, and they have their own version of the birthday song, but it's a kid. It's a kid. I don't want to say friendly because the birthday song is already kid friendly,
Right.
but it's catered towards kids, and it and it goes Marmalade, I'm sure. Marmalade, I'm sure. Apricosa in the hosa. Marmalade, I'm sure. And so it translates to marmalade in the shoe, apricots in the pants, marmalade in the shoe. And so, yeah, right. And so it's a funny song. And so God told me to go into the square and sing that at the top of my lungs. And so this is summertime. They got a few people in the square. And so I come up from the elevator from the underground and I'm just laughing to myself. I'm like, oh man. I'm like, all right, this is going to be fun. And so I go ahead and sing it. And a few people are like, oh yeah. And so it was interesting because after that, I came to the point where I was able to evaluate the benefit of such an exercise for other people. And one of the benefits is this: at the bottom of everything that we do, there's a why. And I have discovered that if that why is not a good reason, then the foundation of said plans are unstable. And so basically, unstable foundation, everything above that, there will be problems, despair, or whatnot for people. And so to bring that into singing in public, people oftentimes make decisions based on their concern about other people's opinions. For example, like, and this happens to young ladies often, maybe a bunch of their friends have gotten married and are having kids, and their community is putting them under pressure, like, hey, what's up with you? What's going on? And so that pressure, if it gets if that worry about other people's opinions of her and why she's not married yet gets put at the basis of one of her plans, this can influence her to make a hasty marriage decision and marry the wrong person. And the result of that being unhappiness, that unfulfillment in her relationship, and on both sides. And so it's very important for people to overcome the worries of the opinions and the potential opinions of other people. Now, I'm not saying that you should disregard other people's opinions, and even the opinions of people who are in strict opposition to you. But wait, I lost you.
I muted myself. My roommate just walked in. If you were wondering who this guy was right here, the real version of him just walked in.
Okay. And so it's important because you don't want that at the basis of your plans. From what I've witnessed, it's not a good thing to have at the basis of your plans. It can cause people to make unideal decisions. It could cause someone to buy the wrong home, the wrong car. Maybe they're trying to show up their neighbor or trying to show up an old classmate. And And so it's important that people get down to the basis intentions and why for every decision that they make. And I made mention of the opinions of strangers or people that are in opposition to you. This is one of those things that has worked for me great. And it's important to, I mean, I'm not going out there looking for conflict, but it comes down to a matter of, well, some people are just, they don't believe in God, or they had some sort of conflict with a Christian in their past, or conflict with the church. And so oftentimes, as I'm talking to people and letting them know things about God, things about Jesus Christ, then it can turn into an uncomfortable discussion. Mm-hmm. But one thing that I have absolutely discovered is this: I have yet to walk away from one of those discussions without discovering an absolute golden nugget. And so this will be an additional training that I want to offer in the future, that I plan to offer in the future, is how to talk to people that fundamentally disagree with you, and how to remain peaceful, calm, and respectful in said disagreement. I think that'll go a long ways for a number of people.
I think that is the most important thing, especially in today's day and age. I mean, it's even as simple as, like you being a man of faith, being a Christian, and someone not quite getting it, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Like, there could be a misconception there, and then you guys are just not on the same page. Like, you respect each other, but then it's like, I'll go my way, you go your way. And it's like, you don't find a common ground.
And yeah, and so that is part of going out and spreading the message, is that everyone's not going to be receptive. And it's just more a matter of letting people know, hey, this is what worked out for me. And this is what brings me that everlasting peace and joy. And also involved in going out and letting people know is letting them see you experience your life, letting them see you experience the difficult times. And then that acts as, I'll simply call it evidence for others to say, okay, something is helping that kid out, because that's not normal human behavior. And so that's, like, for example, Gladys Aylward, it's like, yeah, that's not normal human behavior to roll into a men's prison and walk up to a guy with an axe. No, that's not. And so it's like, what's helping her out? How did she get to that point? And so that acts as a way to spread the message as well. And speaking of talking to people who are in opposition with you, one thing that I discovered is that, and it's not just people who are in opposition with you, this can easily be loved ones as well, but it's important to not get sucked into silly arguments. Like, for example, say for instance, me and my brother were both on this call. And after we got off that call, it was like, hey, I really like Jack's Nike hat, if I say that. And then my brother's like, nah, I'm pretty sure it was Adidas. And that is one of those classic situations that people can easily get sucked into a silly argument. And so one thing that I discovered is that in such a situation, I humble myself. I strive to humble myself, bite the tongue and say, something along the lines of, actually, I don't really remember. And find some sort of creative way to change the discussion. Because I've come to see that those things just escalate into something greater, and it's an ineffective utilization of one's time. And so that's one of those nuggets I'll drop for you and whoever else is listening, is like, be mindful of that, because, and that could be really detrimental in a marriage, because all of those small little arguments build up over time, and this conflict grows, and it starts to stamp out the joy that's in that marriage. And so it's very important for people to, it's very easy to get sucked into these arguments. It's extremely easy. But it's important to pause, be mindful, and think, does it really matter if we come to the exact brand of Jack's hat right now? Is that really, really, really going to benefit us? Or is that going to cause a little bit of a rift? And so it's like, all right, fair enough. Drop it and change the subject.
I mean, especially in a marriage, like you said, like there's going to be so many little arguments. And if you don't get them out of the way, and if you don't talk about them, they're just going to build up. Like one argument could be completely about like the last argument you had just in the back of your head. And that's why you get angry, right? You see it so many times with any couple, really, whether they're married or just in a relationship.
And the big issue with this is that it leads into the revenge cycle. So say, for instance, you lost the last argument. Got to regain status, right? As the human being naturally desires to have, or have to regain respect in some way, shape, or form. And so the revenge cycle is essentially this: somebody feels disrespected or shamed in some way. Seed of anger plants, that grows, replicates, anger starts to gain momentum, and then the person seeks revenge. And so this is one of the reasons why it's important to find things that, or come to understanding on things that can cause one to enter into the revenge cycle, and to avoid those things as best as possible, because then this way you live in more peace and more joy, because it's those, as anger catches momentum in the mind, as you were saying before, like trying to sit and for 4 hours in quiet time. It's like, if you have unforgiveness on your mind, that's going to grow and grow and grow as someone tries to sit in quiet time, and to the point where, for some people, this is going to drive them to some sort of action. And so, and it's like, what's the best way to say? I mean, that action might be as small as going and leaving a comment on someone's video that you don't like on social media. And the thing is once you start to feed the anger demon, it just don't stop eating. And it's like, it could just be continuously fed and fed and fed and fed and fed. And a lot of people don't realize this. This is the reason why Hitler went so far.
Yeah.
Because he had so much unforgiveness that built up throughout his life, from his father to rejection by the art school in Vienna, his first failed takeover of Germany in I think it was the beer hall Putz or something like that, and just all of this built up in him and drove him to calculated, cold-blooded vengeance against people that he felt were responsible. And in part, he felt like part of it was the world was responsible. And so it was easy for him to keep going in revenge. And the thing is, there's hope. There's like, say, for instance, somebody cut you off in traffic. You can enter that revenge cycle, get angry and let it stir up and maybe get into some accident trying to seek revenge. Or you can say, I forgive him, Heavenly Father, for cutting me off in traffic. And so there's hope. And so this is one of the reasons why I also remain joyful, is because I hang on to that hope. And I know that other people can get there. And so with that said, I continue to spread the message. I'm usually, or I should say, I'm often in the main square here in Zagreb preaching and letting people know. Sometimes that comes by way of telling jokes. I mean, I'm not doing stand-up comedy.
Hey, it's kind of the same thing. Telling jokes. May as well be.
Okay. I mean, I guess
when they're not expecting laughs, that's when you get laughs.
Right. And so it's like, oh, he's just hanging out in the square talking to people. And so I'm able, I guess, to hit him with jokes. But people go into a room to see, like, I came here specifically for straight up jokes. Yeah.
That's where you get in trouble.
Just, what influenced you to do that?
It was always something that I always wanted to try, kind of like a bucket list thing.
Okay.
The first night I did it was awesome, killed, which gave me the confidence to go back, and then that's where it all went downhill.
Okay, so I guess, so what brought you to say, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and do this item on my bucket list? Was there something specific, or it was just, you're just going down your list?
Growing up, my dad always had it on the television, always enjoyed listening to it, always felt like I had like some sort of story to tell, always had like, you know, like that couch humor, you know, like I was able to make like my teammates on the baseball team laugh growing up, was always like the class clown, so to speak. So I'm like, I think this will be pretty easy for me. And it was not. My mind totally tricked me. But I'm continuing to be disciplined enough to continue to learn from it. You know, I still do it every week, you know?
Okay.
What's the worst that could happen? You just get booed off the stage. You get hecklers. I'm not afraid of those people.
And so that's an important mindset to have. It's like, hey, you know what? For me, it's one of those things. I expect people to make fun of me from time to time. I expect dislikes here and there, and so it's important to get over that. And that was one of those things that I had struggles with. I'm like worried about, like, oh no, what are these people going to think? And that is one of those limiting things that holds a lot of people back. It holds a lot of people back from doing things, good things that could help them out, that could help them grow. And that worry about being, in a sense, shunned by the community or losing status in the community, wherever they might be living, keeps a lot of people, holds a lot of people back from reaching their full potential. And so for some people, it'll be easier to get over that. And for some people, it take a little bit of work to get them to the point where it's like, okay, baby steps to get here, baby steps to get here. It's like, don't worry about them. They're most likely not going to murder you.
Exactly, right? They'll get
Yeah.
over. You're going to be so bad that they're just going to get over you in the next 60 seconds. It's good. It stings for a second, but then you get over it. And it's true. Like that's like the art of everybody being different, everybody having their own DNA. Like one person might be nervous as heck to go up there, and then once they do it, they're set. It's like, okay, I can do this. Where some people might go up there every single week and still get really nervous to the point where they're puking before they go on stage.
You know a few people like that.
I know one. That's why I said it.
Ah, okay, okay.
Not
Ooh.
me, if you're wondering.
Yeah. No, no, no. I was just because I know that that's one of the big fears that a lot of people have is like going up in front of public and speaking. And yes, fear is, it will affect your performance. I noticed that fear would kind of choke out my voice sometimes whenever I was singing and like trying to get to the highest
Yep.
volume possible. It's like fear would choke out my performance. And this is how I started to realize, or this is part of the wisdom that God gave me, is that all of these things that add to mental fog literally affect people's performance. And a large part of that is because you're not focused in this moment. And so it's very important for people to, like I was saying before, to write things down to find out, okay, what is affecting me mentally? What is adding to my mental fog? And it's important for people to find these things out, or I would say to come to me, because I got a long list of things that surprisingly, like, I mean, as God keeps helping me discover more and more and more and more, it's like, oh, I see how that affects performance here. I see how that can steal someone's joy here. I see how this can cause someone to be inefficient with their time. And it's just like this ever growing list, to the point where I think it's about up to 1,000 items,
Yeah.
and they can get pretty detailed as well, each item. I mean, there's more, but right now this is good for me to continue moving forward and to help people understand these things. I'm not sure where I pointed but to help people understand these things and to get victory in this life, so that they can walk up on stage and tell a maybe corny joke and roll off and be like, eh.
They're all corny. They're all. You remember the first time you preached?
The first time I preached.
And like talk about like those nerves. Like, did you have like a good anxious, nervous energy beforehand? Because that's a
I
very that
guess
might be tougher than stand-up comedy. Because at least like when you're on stage telling jokes, it's like, all right, like if I bomb, worst case scenario, whatever, these people aren't going to remember me. But preaching in front of people who have certain beliefs, they're probably going to take away from that either like, oh, that was great, or it's like, I disagree with a lot of things that he said, the way he said that. Like people will analyze it afterwards.
so. Pretty much all of my preaching is on the street.
Okay.
I guess technically videos that I post online are also preaching as well, but a lot of the preaching is on the street. And so I'll have to bring it back to Germany. So this is where I had to, again, step outside of my comfort zone and approach many strangers on the street. So this way I could get over my fear and worries of talking to complete strangers, and also to improve my ability to communicate. Because, well, first I have to find a way into a conversation and then to keep it rolling. And so that's when it really counted. And that's where it was, the fear and the worry was like super apparent. And I remember times where I'm like, like, should I go out to this person? And eventually I just kept going up to more and more and more and more people, and just having small talk conversations until I got better and better. And then I was able to have a long enough conversation where I could say something about Jesus Christ, or I could say something about God. And so that was, man, literally my life changed in Germany. And I approached so many people, got rejected so many times. That's an important thing as well. In order to do such a training exercise, you have to be able to get over rejection. And that requires victory over unforgiveness. Because somebody rejects you, it's like, oh, that person disrespected me. And then you start to develop thoughts of anger, and, well, that's going to limit you on the next person you try and go talk to, or make you super reluctant to go talk to other people. And so that's, in a nutshell, the process that brought me to the point where I could stand more comfortably in like the main square here and talk to groups of people, and whether that be telling jokes or just talking. Yeah, it was it's, I can't even sum up the feelings, like the excitement of going through the process of approach, fail, approach, improve, fail, get rejected, get this, like look, and but it's each step improving a little bit more, improving a little bit more. It's like, oh, you know what, let me not talk about that again in conversation. Or it's like, oh, you know, that worked out well with them, let me see if it works out well with them. It's like, oh, it was okay, but let me tweak that here, let me try this with this other group of people. And it was a good process, and I'm looking forward to getting people to step into that training exercise.
I mean, that's kind of how I got into talking, really. Like, if you asked my parents, like the first like 12, 13 years of my life, they get like 2 words out of me a day. Literally did not say anything to a soul. And then one day I looked on TV. I'm like, I want to be a sports broadcaster. And then that turned into podcasting. And now I literally every single day sit down and talk to people like you about your story, because I'm curious as hell to learn more about everybody and what they're doing and what their mission and what their goal is in order to help everybody else in the world, which I think is really cool and inspiring. And you kind of talking about the golden nuggets for the past, half hour, some of the things that our audience has gotten to hear are like, again, like groundbreaking stuff that people are like, yeah, that would make my life so much easier if I was able to just like let that go and forgive. What would you say to wrap this up, and we will do this so many times past this too, because there's so much more I would want to talk to you about. But what is like the golden nugget that you unlocked in your life, and at what stage was that? If you haven't already talked about it.
I've hit around it, but the golden nugget that just shook me to my foundation was discovering my God-given purpose. And all of that I've talked about was tied into helping me get to that point. And my God-given purpose being to help you look more attractive, not the person on the outside, though, the person on the inside, the real
Right.
you, your character. And that just shook me to my foundation. Like, it's like this journey took me all the way to this point to be able to say that soundbite. But not just to say it, but to actually provide people with the things that can help them get that inward attractiveness. Like a person who can forgive, although somebody's done them wrong, and still have joy. That person is attractive because it's like, man, it's like, how are you still able to have joy and peace of mind, although they did this to you, or although that happened to you? And so I'm excited. And I look forward to each day.
Well, how can our audience reach you? Because again, like you are speaking truth and knowledge to like the nth degree right now this past hour. So I definitely want people to figure out how you can help them and where they can find you.
Okay, so that's God's been hitting me with the fire hose, so I hit you guys with the fire hose. I didn't realize that I said so much stuff. So I think the website is AmericanAirlines.com. They could go buy a ticket and fly to Zagreb.
That's a good joke. That's a really good joke. And you just thought about that off the top of your head.
No, I used that one before.
Can you write my jokes moving forward?
But so right now, people can find me on Instagram, and it's at Emmanuel Enime, all one word. And so that's where people can hear the teachings and the help. And basically what I'm focused on is helping people understand the fundamentals that they need in order to play this game called life, and to play it successfully to the point where you're thriving, although bombs might be dropping all around you.
And that's life, right? Failure is inevitable. You got to face it head on. You know, you can either walk in there and be like, well, this is going to happen, or you could walk in there with a smile and be like, this is going to happen and it's going to be awesome because I'm going to learn from it at the end of the day.
Yeah, indeed.
Well, I appreciate you. I appreciate you reaching out, man. This was awesome. We are absolutely doing this again. Emmanuel Enime, again, you could catch him on Instagram. Go to his website, AmericanAirlines.com, and go see him. Go get help. The fundamentals of this stuff, man, it's not easy, but I feel like you, just talking to you the past hour, you're figuring it out. I don't want to say you've figured it out, because I don't think anybody truly has figured out the game of life, but you are definitely on the right track. I am so glad you found your purpose, man. It's inspiring to hear the words that are coming out of your mouth. But we're definitely going to have to link up again. This was episode, what was it? What did I say? 491 of the podcast, 491 with Emmanuel, Jack, and then Matt right over there. The real him's probably taking a nap or something. But again, this podcast is presented by Mayweather Boxing and Fitness. For those of you guys looking to get a great sweat on, Zach, hit the lights, man.